following video is the property of A-1 upgrades. Unauthorized copy and/or distribution is not permitted. By continuing to watch this video, you accept those terms. This video demonstrates what the electronic prescribing and medication recording and allergy recording looks like after your software is upgraded to the version 11.2 for Medisoft Clinical, Lytec MD, and Practice Partner. What basically has happened with this version is instead of every night at 2 a.m. in the morning, your server going out, getting the latest pharmacy updates and refills and all the other parts of your e-prescribing, this is actually putting your server out on an EMD site for those search fields. Your data is still stored locally. So we're going to start with pharmacies. One thing you'll notice when you first look at your software after it has been upgraded, you'll notice that at the top of the screen you see this eRX, which has to do with workflow, and we'll go over that later. But as far as adding pharmacies, it's going to be in the same screen as you can see for a patient. In this particular patient, I don't have any pharmacies. I also don't have any allergies or medication, so we can approach it as if it was a new patient. If you did have pharmacies, those pharmacies would be converted and in this patient view. So the way to add a pharmacy is you click the Manage Pharmacies. It opens up this new window. Now, you can search for pharmacies based on any one of these fields up here. Personally, I like to use zip codes. So if I put in my zip code and I do a search, what I see is the pharmacies that show up in my zip code. If I want to look at this screen in more detail, I can see here that everything that shows green here means that the pharmacy can do new fills, refills, and can do electronic prescribing of controlled substance. You also have a way of doing a nickname for a pharmacy. So for example, I already saved one of these pharmacies, and you can see in clinic, I called it my closest pharmacy. But technically, it's this pharmacy. So I'm going to select that pharmacy. I'm going to hit OK. And now you see it in your patient screen just like you would have seen it before. Now let's suppose we want another pharmacy. I'm going to click Pharmacy again. I would put in whatever zip code. Make sure you move your cursor to the left. I've noticed with this first release, sometimes it leaves it closer to where you would put in a 4-digit zip. So use your arrow key to the right, put in your zip code. You have tabs that this is SureScript's directory, and I'm going to select this pharmacy as another pharmacy. I'm going to hit OK. Now I have them both in there. But let's say I want this one to be the preferred pharmacy, not that one. So all you have to do is go back into pharmacy. You're on the patient, so you see the little star tells you what is the primary pharmacy. I'm going to hit the star there. You notice how it grays out, and now you can see that it's changed the preferred pharmacy. Now, aside from pharmacies, we're going to save this record. We're going to go into, so now we're going to review the chart. And we're going to go into the medication tab. So once I click on there, you'll see it looks pretty much the same. The only thing they did was add a few buttons on the bottom that we're going to talk about. But we're going to start with assuming this patient is a new patient that I already put in some health maintenance items. I put in their diabetic. I put in their, they've got hypertension. I put in some diagnosis. So first thing I want to do is the allergies. Just like in the past, if the patient doesn't have any allergies, instead of the NKDN, if you look up top here on the left, if I start typing no known, see it will pop up. And I'm going to hit save, and now I've accounted for no allergies. But let's suppose the patient does have an allergy. I need to first remove that, and you remove it by hitting this little button on the right, and then you get a trash can that pops up on the right. I click that. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to hit allergies again, and I'm going to just put in, let's just say peanuts. Of course, you can put in medications or whatever. I'm going to use the pull down. You have the same pull downs as before, just in a different screen. If you mark it as severe, it's going to come up in red. If you leave it moderate, it'll be the same. You can make, if you have an existing allergy and it's no longer active, you can make it inactive. You can put in your own comments. You can put in reactions. You can put in additional long comments. I'm just going to hit save. And if you had multiple allergies, it would preview the same way. You also still have the allergy reconciliation. Now let's talk about medications, not prescribing, but current medications a patient would be taking. If the patient is on no medications, just as before, you still have this tab, you still hit that button. You have to still account for patients without medication. So that would take care of it. As soon as you actually record a medication or prescribe, it will replace that as before. So I'm going to hit new. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to record medications first before I prescribe. So the new button is for prescribing or printing. The record button is just for recording current medications. I'm going to put into here a medication. Let's see if that comes up. Okay, we'll do this one here. Remember, we're only recording, so if I select that, I put in a generic. I could type in a name of a provider. I could put in more information. I could use a description of how the patient's taking it, but I'm just going to save it so we have that in our system. And notice it did replace the on no medications. Now let's say I want to prescribe a medication or print it. I'm going to hit the new button, and it's the same looking screen. If I, let's say, am selecting this medication and I pick the first item, what happens is it looks at your current conditions and it looked at the age and it came up with a warning. So if you hit that triangle on the left, it gives you more information. You could have several warnings on a medication. So at that point, you can either say, I want to cancel it, I don't want to prescribe that, or I want to ignore that warning. You can mark in your system a reason. I'll just say benefit outweighs risk. And now I can see that medication. In this one I selected, I can say a quantity I want. I could put in refills. I have my default pharmacy, but of course I could pick my other pharmacy, or I could select a pharmacy on the fly like you could before. Because I put in diagnosis, I can put in an indication. I can put in a prior authorization number if it's needed. Notice the only things that are needed are the items that were highlighted before I selected them. I could send a note to the pharmacy. I could also make some internal comments that stay in my system. But down to the right here is the real benefit of this, because this is pulling up this particular medication's information. And what you notice is it has the medication that we put in our system. It gives you all the dosage and warnings and everything related to it. I will tell you that if you're working through a file server and a firewall, you could click on some of these other things and it may not open because we can't unblock everything that a site may go to. But you're still going to get this information regardless. You also will have patient education right here. So this could be printed. It could be given to the patient. And you could, right at this point, if this is the only medication you're doing, you could say send RX now, and it'll go to another screen that gives you the option to print or send. But what I'm going to do is save. If I had more medications that I'm prescribing, then I could record each one. And then you notice how I've got a work list button up top, which I can have for multiple patients. Or in this patient, I could just hit the send. So I'm going to hit the send. It's going to give me my last screen before it would actually send. And what you see on the screen is the medication. I would go to the left and I would put a little checkbox in that box. If it's going electronically, it will stay as eRX. If I want this to be printed, I could print it, and then I can sign it, hand it to the patient. And I'm not going to go any farther because we can't send test scripts. So I'm actually going to close out of here. You delete medications the same way as before. You could hit Action, Delete, and now it's gone. So in conclusion, the only thing that's changed so far on the 11.2 is the way that you search for your drugs that you prescribe or record, the allergies you prescribe and record. Later on, the web view will be replaced by a website called UpDocs, but that will have its own migration on its own step, and this will bring you to a full 11.2 version. Thank you for watching this video.